Hey, this is Coach Duncan. I want to talk about the flowchart PowerPoint that you need to do this week. Remember, we're not doing screen or screencast-o-matic or a video of this. It's just a PowerPoint, but there is a flowchart involved, and I do want to talk a little bit about that. First, let's look at the directions or instructions. You will notice a place you can go to get the flow chart. In the end, you're going to develop a flow chart of the channels of distribution, and I want you to use the vocab and the language of the chapter. So make this like a chapter review project, if that makes sense. And you're going to need to pick a project or product, excuse me. Don't pick pencils or t-shirts. I think we've talked about those enough to where you probably should pick something else. You do not need to pick a simple product. You just need to pick four natural resources from that product. And I'll explain that more maybe when I pop up a pencil. And then you need to kind of describe the manufacturing process, so people know kind of what you're developing as you talk about your product. There's always fun facts out there for the different products, how much the Americans use or something like that. So just add something, a little to keep your audience entertained. And then what you're really doing, the gist of the project is researching those resources back to um, gathering or harvesting or mining or whatever they're doing to collect those resources. And then they're actually going to, if they're commodities, they're going to usually bind them into pallet size cotton. I'm just thinking of the different kinds of commodities that you buy off a pallet. They do that so you can put them on a train or put them on a truck and load and distribute and offload and unload all of the stuff. And once you do that, you're going to take all this information and you're going to build a flow chart on how your product takes resources, uses the channels of distribution to get to your factory. Depending on your ordering, you're going to distribute it out to your end user. That is what the PowerPoint is supposed to do. Let's go ahead and hop in the PowerPoint. That's the flow chart, but I'm not, don't let me talk about, give you the actual presentation. I just want to talk about the presentation parts, not to actually give you the presentation. First, you start with the product you picked. Give a visual, I believe. I tell you only to pick four. For a pencil, there's actually five. Remember, it doesn't have to be a five resource product. It's just you're picking four resources from any product. And it works best if you take them all the way back to a natural resource. In this scale, then the next step was to and I'm not going to talk about it, is to talk about the manufacturing process, in this case of making pencils, just so people know what the process is. And here's my fun fact. We use a lot of wooden pencils, a lot of yellow dye wooden pencils. Then I go research my, in this case, aluminum, which is mined in, the majority is mined in China. Obviously, we would cost basis this to the cheapest uh, miner or producer of this resource. I'm betting it's here, just economies of scale. Canada's closer, so it might be Canada in this case. Matter of fact, it could be. I don't. I did not check into it that far. Um, but just showing you where they're produced at, where we would have options to get our resource. Obviously, you're going to have to get that resource here. Oh, when I researched wood, it was right after the California fires. Most of the United States pencils were used red cedar from California. After the bad California forest fires, most of it got shipped to Canadian. I can't remember what tree it is up there. It might be another type of cedar, actually. Got switched to Canadian, so now Canadian's a big manufacturer of this. Um, anyway, this is just what your research. You just follow the research. Just make a slide telling what the research says about it, if that makes sense. Graphite, which is the actual writing part of the pencil. Um, Notice we're going back to China for sure now. So now I've got Canada, if it's the low cost producer, which it's close enough it might be. For Canada was definitely the wood. Canada or China was the resin. I can't remember what was the first one we did. Um, Now we're talking about the graphite, which again looks to me like um, maybe Mexico. Just thinking of places we could get this to compete. These are competitors. We're going to go the lowest price here. Probably who we're talking to. The yellow dye, and now I feel like I'm giving you the presentation instead of talking about the presentation, is from Southeast Asia. It's actually a wild plant. I think that gets trained probably to somewhere in Europe or East Europe, it seemed like, and then it gets refined or processed into a dye, which then comes to the United States. And the resin, the oil that produces resin, it's kind of an oil based product, is all over the world, obviously, and then usually it gets refined here through, I think a majority of it comes through Louisiana, um, usually through barge or tankers or however you want to say it. And in the end, you go through that whole process. And all those people touching your product, in this case pencils, to get an 8 count pencil at your local Walmart for $1.27. That was a real price as of a couple years ago. And then the last um, part of your presentation is taking everything you just learned when you researched all those resources. And then I want you to investigate a company that sells your product and see it. Do they sell it through wholesalers, which they will if they're distributing it to retailers? Do they sell it directly to retailers? Probably, if they're big, they do, to the big retailers at least. Do they drop ship orders? Do they have an online or go through Amazon or do something um, through and ship it straight to the customer? You just need to find out what they're doing. And as you look up your resources and find the flow to get to your warehouse, storage of resources here, supplies, we'll call it. You have your manufacturing part of this, and it doesn't, I'm putting it all like it's in one location. It doesn't necessarily have to be. A lot of factories are by train tracks, and a lot of obviously take truck deliveries and need to store it somewhere to work through in this case, production. Now you're going to warehouse the final product depending on your ordering process or your distribution process to get to the end user. And follow it all the way to the end user. That way you're not getting stopped at a wholesaler or someplace. Follow it all the way through. Start at the start, end at the end. If you're having questions on how to make a flow chart, you can try here. You use your school. I think you're going to have to create an account to use this. If you do use this, let me see if I have a, yeah, it's just you pick the shape, pick the arrow, the flow, and it's really just creating by shapes is how I would say it. Can you do that through Word or through Google? Probably you can now I think about it. You probably don't even need to go someplace to build a flow chart. Make sure you label the different distribution channels just so this is a review project for the test that you're going to take later this week. But you don't have to go to this website. It's just it's what I picked. It's just how I did it. And I'm fairly happy with the flowchart. So it fit into my PowerPoint fairly easy too. So you're welcome to that. But anyway, you feel best to create the flowchart. This is the big slide finish of all your investigative work. Hopefully that makes sense. Be safe. Have a little fun if you can. It's a nice day. Go get out. But make sure you get your marketing done too. Have a good day.